Hello everyone, welcome back to Raw Faith, a father and son's journey through the Bible. Today we are at St. Peter's Chapel on the Wall in Bradwell-on-Sea. Built in 654 AD by St. Cedd, this chapel would have originally been made of wood. It was then rebuilt with stone from a nearby deserted Roman fort. Out of the ruins of the old tyranny rose this place of worship which still stands today and is one of the oldest largely intact churches in England. In this episode, my dad and I read through the middle part of chapter 5 of the Gospel according to Matthew, the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount. We hope you enjoy. Around Easter, we went back to Chelmsford Cathedral because it was time for the confirmations. I think it might just be worth quickly explaining a confirmation. It's kind of like a second baptism. When you're an adult, traditionally around the age of 13, you make your own decision to come into the church. And it's kind of the Western version of a coming-of-age ritual. Because a lot of ancient tribes had rituals where the young boys would prove themselves as men. And they'd go off and, they'd hunt an animal or they'd endure some sort of painful ritual, which still happens in some places in the world. And sort of our version of that is being brought into Christianity. Not as common anymore. I didn't get confirmed at 13. I got confirmed last year I must have been 27. And to go back a year later to see the same service for other people was actually quite emotional because a lot had happened in that year. There was a lot of changes in our church. A couple of people left. One person retired. It was quite interesting to see how much had happened. And the other thing that happened was, oh my God, a whole year's gone past, I better get on. And it was kind of an impetus to crack on with this show. And it was overseen by Bishop Gooley, who I very much like, and she wrote a book called Reflections on the Resurrection, which was partly an inspiration for this show, because she goes through passages in the Bible and sort of talks about what they mean to her. And so I thought, oh, that's a good idea, and that's kind of what we do. Try and bring it to ourselves. And I also loved the service because there were some really powerful, upbeat hymns. A lot of hymns can be quite miserable.
Yeah, I remember that service.
And they were quite hopeful.
Yeah.
It was quite uplifting. So that was lovely to do, and also to support someone else in our church who was getting confirmed at the time. What about you? What have you been up to?
Oh, not a massive amount. Just a point though on that what you just made. I'll be interested to see the comments on Christian people that talk about a rite of passage or a ritual for the confirmation.
Yeah.
That should be an interesting talking point. That one. Sure, there's a few traditionalists that will take exception to that, but nonetheless, it's a point of view. Not a great deal. I think I've read an interesting book. C.S. Lewis, very famous man, wrote a book called Mere Christianity, and I read that. In actual fact, when I say read it, I got an audio book of it, listened to it. I generally do that while I'm tinkering in the shed, and it was quite interesting. People say you got to listen to that book. It's quite an interesting book, which it was. I could see great parallels in it, in my faith, in what he mentioned, but I could see complete and utter disconnects as well, particularly where he was justifying capital punishment, I believe, in it, which is a hard pill to swallow. But generally speaking, it explored the faith in so much of reconciliation, forgiveness, love within our faith. It explored all those aspects in a nice way, and sort of explained a few things that were difficult and subjective for people that are just coming to Christianity. So, yeah, I enjoyed it, but there were aspects of it that it was a love-hate relationship whilst reading it.
Yeah.
But I'd recommend it to other people. But to read with an open mind and love in your heart.
Yeah, I still need to read it. It's on the list. It's kind of one of those books you're expected to read in a way, so
Yeah,
it's worth having a look at. In reference to, I was sort of talking about comparative religion. It doesn't necessarily have to be secular when you discuss those things. For example, when I say that a lot of cultures have a coming-of-age ritual, that doesn't mean ours is lesser. When I look at all these religions that have similar patterns, we're all kind of on the same track. We're all trying to find our way to God in these rituals.
Sure.
So when I say I've seen the history of humanity evolve these practices, I see it like we're getting closer to the truth in a way, rather than ours is just another one of these meaningless rituals. I actually see it as we've known for a very long time, even before we could articulate it, that something else is going on. And this is our evolution of trying to get towards it. Christianity's
so it's not like an absolute direct equivalent, but it's
there's a lot of, I mean, for one, a lot of those rituals were just for boys. Whereas a lot of women get confirmed. Our church is, as it said right in the Old Testament, women are right up there with men. Adam and Eve were created together. So I see a lot of humans all sort of aiming at the same thing, but they've all got their own way of doing things. Just like our way of doing things is this show, and so it's all sort of variations on the same song. Comparative religion can sound quite secular, quite atheist, like it's all just a bunch of equal mumbo jumbo, but I see it as the opposite. I see it as the fact that we all kind of see things a similar way is kind of evidence that something is actually going on.
Yeah, I agree.
So I just, but I find it interesting reading that stuff, seeing the parallels and then seeing the differences as well.
Cool.
But what was emotional about going back to the confirmation, seeing how a whole year had passed, it brought it home how nothing's stable. There's always change happening. Because I thought I was kind of comfortable a year ago where I was. I was kind of comfortable in my faith. I had certain friends, certain mentor figures. And then that kind of dissipated within only a year. And I thought, oh my God, so it's a reminder. But it helped me. You always hear this, but you've got to incorporate it sometimes, that life is ever changing.
Do you ever find in an event like confirmation or marriage, or when not being married, obviously, but confirmation and stuff like that you've built up to it, you've done it, and you think, right, what now?
That's what happened.
It all goes quiet.
That's what happened. I felt like I was on a conveyor belt because everything was being done for me. The priests were setting up sessions for me to go and talk about God. The date was set when I was getting confirmed. It was all being done for me. And then I had this massive...
We all went to dinner afterwards and celebrated.
And then you wake up the next day, and then a month goes by, and time speeds up. And that was another reason to do this show was, I've got to push my faith forward myself. No one's going to do it for me. I'm in now, but now it's on me. So...
it's like, your faith builds over many years in a haphazard way, but generally quite slowly. Hopefully sort of in a moderate pace, because some people's faith builds very, very fast and it can be very explosive and difficult for them. But sometimes it's better to have it just generally maturing and getting better and better and better. And it does take time. So when you've done something like confirmation and you've been intense, I feel like that after Easter, because when you do the Easter, we have Holy Week in Easter, and it is quite an intense week, and especially the drama of it, and the passion, and the feeling of helplessness and pain and sacrifice, and then afterwards we have Christmas Day where everybody says Hallelujah, is risen indeed, and then I feel a little bit like a cat that's had a bird taken off it.
Yeah, it's and then it just sort of falls apart. But it's interesting what you said there about some people. I've seen this. They have a very quick faith. They come to faith very quickly. It's very intense. And I've always been the opposite. I've always kind of been umming and ahhing for my whole life, kind of just gradually getting there.
It happens differently to different people. I mean, some people get a very, very powerful message that they feel from God, or they feel from somewhere, and it really, really hits them hard. And I think from my experience of that, the ones that I've heard and listened to, it generally tends to be people that are in pain or suffering. People that have, for instance, become very low for whatever reason in their life, be it loss, be it drugs, be it drink, be it, financial worries, all sorts of things. But people can become very, very, very low. And when you're very, very low, and when you get to the bottom and you think there's nothing left, then there is. God's still there. And sometimes people can see God at that point in their life, which is quite a powerful visitation generally, and that can be quite a powerful awakening to God. And then others, it can just come very, very, very slowly. You might have been gone to church all your life, grown up through school and the church, and just gone through the rigmaroles and the routine of it all. And I think we heard this from Father Andrew's comments on how he came to faith when we did that episode. And he said that he came to, because it was a church family. Everybody went to church. It was a thing they did every week, da-da. And then he sort of drifted away from it a little bit. And then something happened, which is the thing, and brought him back to it. So you can sort of grow up in a routine of faith, which you might not have a really strong connection to God at that point. And then something happens in your life, whether it be you're losing your track in your own life, or whether something horrible happens to you or whatever, and that can reignite your Christian life, but in quite a bright and sudden way, And it just, like say, it comes from people. I mean, like you say, you're slowly feeling God's love. You might feel that one day that might happen. I went to Lourdes once, wallop, doing, power. It was amazing. But not everybody that happens like that,
Yeah, I certainly feel like I'm on the long haul.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward.
Yeah, you'll never know. You'll never know what he's got in store for you.
But perhaps it'll happen when I'm not expecting it. But I certainly
it always happens like that. Yeah.
But I've certainly walked away the last couple of years thinking I need to push it forward as well.
Yeah.
Like I've got to put work into it. It's like going to the gym. You've got to. It's not going to.
Yeah. You've got to just fail better.
Yeah, and because if you don't make time for your faith, reading texts or going to holy places or just thinking about it, it just falls into the background. So I need to make more time for it, I think.
Yeah, I think it's worth that. But I tend to take it into my work. That's how I feel like I pray nearly every day. And I can pray while I'm bolting a wheel on.
Yeah.
I can be bolting a wheel onto an airplane, and I can be praying. And certainly, when I come to sign on the dotted line and certify the aircraft to fly, I always pray at that point. Always say a little prayer. Always. I never tell that to the people though, because it's quite interesting, I used to say this: if you have imagine you had a Christian pilot, and you were getting on the aeroplane, you're all going on your holidays, and you're all sat down on the plane, and the pilot comes on the PA. He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the flight. You'll be pleased to know we've just had the engine changed on the right-hand engine, so it's a brand new engine. And I've just prayed to the Lord the engine will work and not fail us, and will take us safely to our destination." Can you imagine the impact that would have? But that's essentially what you do.
Yeah.
That's essentially what you say.
After you've done all your checks.
Absolutely. But it's best not to broadcast that side of it.
Yeah.
If, for instance, when on a Saudi Arabian airline, you read the Quran.
Yeah.
and the Karampa, the traveller's prayer will come on before you fly. But I think in the West we're a little bit less sort of able to cope with that side of it. Yeah. You have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, "You shall not murder, and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment." But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, "You fool," you will be liable to the hell of fire. So when you are offering your gift to the altar, if you remember that your brother and sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come to offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are on the way to court with him, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you will be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. I think for me, the big message through that was count to 10.
Oh, yeah.
It was like the gift at the altar. Before you give a gift to God, the gift to the altar or gift to God, don't do it with hatred in your heart. That was one of the first things about it. So what they were saying there, what the gospel was saying was, go away, reconcile your differences. I mean, brother and sister here, I think it's talking about fellow men and women. It's not just talking about your brother and your sister. Reconcile your differences, come to peace with them, forgive them, let them forgive you. Then go to God and then give your gift at the altar, because you're in a clean heart. You're not carrying jealousy, you're not carrying prejudice, you're not carrying sin. It's a clean job. So I think that's one of the messages in there, which is really a good one.
Yeah.
Because one of the core things in our faith is reconciliation and forgiveness.
Yeah.
And that's so important in our lives. So to focus on that is a good thing. And it's one of the most difficult things that I think human beings can do, is forgive and reconcile. Because you feel that by holding on to that hatred or holding on to that resentment, that you have power over the other person. And the actual truth is you don't. The other person has power over you while you're holding that resentment. And it's such a vital part of our faith to be able to get rid of that by reconciliation or forgiveness. So I think that's a message that's very strong in this part. Also, counting to 10 before you go and do something. And the other one there, of course, is when it's not so much forgiveness, but it's being penitent at the end. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you're on your way to court.
Yeah.
So you've got somebody there, you've been arrested, say, and you have the policeman or the guy that's suing you or whatever, and it's coming to terms and it's probably apologising, making reconciliation, making amends, whatever, and it's always better to do that before you get to court. And that is so true in all walks of life, not just regarding litigation, and that's true in litigation as well. Yeah. Never let a judge decide it, or always come to an agreement before that happens. It's so important. That's one thing I've learned in my business life, because just as in our faith, if you let it go to the end result, generally you'll get an arbitration, you'll get a decision, but it might not be just.
Yeah.
Whereas if you can come to terms with your brother or sister in negotiation and through forgiveness, reconciliation, then that actual contract that comes out of that will be peaceful, solid and reliable.
And it can also literally be brother and sister, because it's often hard to make amends with people closest to you, because there's a lot of baggage there can be sometimes, years of fighting and resentments. And there's an impetus on here that you've got to be the one to make peace here. Especially because, and it mentions with the judge bit, is go and make peace with your accuser. You could say, well, I'm the innocent one here. He's trying to take me to court and get me done in. He's the one in the wrong. He should be the one to apologise and back down. But there's an element here of it's on you to do that, which is so painful, especially if you're filled with anger. Because these are situations you get into when you're angry. You've had an argument that's gone out of control, and now you're in front of a judge.
And then you dig your heels in.
Yeah. And you're so angry at your brother or sister, you've left them and gone to church and try and pretend like everything's normal. Yeah. And you made a really good point there about if you carry that anger into those situations, you're corrupted by it, and you shouldn't carry that around.
The antidote to that is very powerful. Not easy to get to, but amazingly powerful. And it's the gift of humility.
Yeah.
If you've got humility, you can lose your pride, you can lose your ego, you can see more clearly. And if you have humility, when you give up that hatred, when you give up that resentment, when you give up that bitterness, it doesn't hurt. The humility takes that hurt away. So if you think, I'll never forgive that person, I just can't forgive them for what they do. If you've got humility in your heart and you're thinking of God when you do it and the benefit of it all, when you actually give that up, it's not as painful as it feels. The humility heals that wound. And humility is a big thing again in our faith, because it takes away confrontation. Humility takes away confrontation. The ability to laugh at your own foolish mistakes is humility. It's a wonderful thing. Not always easy to achieve, but when it's there, it's wonderful.
You have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to go into hell. Dad, apart from the fiery language, I happen to agree with that. I think that's quite helpful, because like all the passages here, it's putting morality back on you personally. It's like you've got to hold yourself to a higher standard. And it's very easy, don't let me confess too loudly here, but it's very easy to let your eyes wander and to say that even that's unacceptable, which I think a lot of women would be quite happy to hear. And it's putting it on you. It's saying, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's natural. It doesn't matter what she's wearing. It's unacceptable. Get yourself in check. And it might seem like a little thing, but it can lead all the way down. And that's what it's saying there. Like, cut it out. Nip it in the bud completely, because that will lead you down a terrible... let alone making people feel uncomfortable. But the thing with, fantasies and behaviours, you can spiral. And so just saying, if you catch yourself, your eyes wandering, stop it and have that mental... I think that's very useful, that, because it's not putting it on the women, it's not putting it on someone else's fault, it's on you to hold yourself to a high moral standard. And that's, as I've said before, when done right, religion is about telling yourself what to do, not telling other people what to do. A bit Old Testament with some of the hellfire there, but I have to say, I think there are some blokes that could probably do with hearing that message. So, what did you get from it?
It was interesting, and I do agree with it. Yes, it is a bit hellfire and damnation. Look at the first bit there. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust. Now that is a very specific word, lust, right? That is not looking at a woman and thinking, "Oh, she looks nice."
Yeah.
You're not looking at a woman with lust. You're saying, "Oh, she's beautiful. Oh, look at the clothes she's wearing. Look at her shape." You know, You're thinking, "Oh, what a beautiful woman," and that's perfectly natural to do that. To look at a woman with lust is a completely different thing. It's that wish.
Yeah.
It's that want, and it's that wish which is inappropriate. And I think that is what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
That not even wolf whistling at a woman. Well,
You're right. It is a different.
Shouldn't wolf whistle at women, but
Yeah.
that's a completely different thing to looking at a woman with lust.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because there is a difference, and women often say they can sense when someone's staring at them, because it is a different thing.
It's a predatory thing.
Yeah,
I think.
and
it's
very
inappropriate.
concerning. Yeah.
Completely inappropriate. Lack of respect for the person and everything, and that's absolutely right. Now, and it says here, has already committed adultery. It is because your mind is, if you were in that situation, your mind's already there.
Yeah.
So you have. So that is definitely a sin, without a shadow of a doubt. Now, when it says if your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out, and if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. Better to lose a member than to lose your whole body. Interesting point this. I didn't quite get this, because the thing that could make, and perhaps this is what it's doing, your right hand doesn't cause you to sin. Your mind causes you to sin. Your right eye does not cause you to sin. Now, nobody thinks that your right eye causes you to sin, and nobody thinks your right hand causes you to sin. So what's the message here? Is it, I don't quite understand the message. Is it better to lose one?
I think it might be stop yourself from acting out the sin.
It's definitely prevention.
Yeah. It's like, because if you're thinking about it, chances are you're going to want to do it.
So in other words,
And that's an
if
escalation.
you're thinking about it, tear that thought out of your mind.
Yeah, that too.
Rather than tear your eye out, tear the thought out of your mind, perhaps. Yeah. Interesting paragraphs and phraseology.
Yeah.
I'm open to explanation on that, but I think it's something about whatever is making you do it, cut it out and throw it away.
Yeah.
And leave it. Yeah. Whether that's a mind, a thought, or what, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe some.
Might be a friend.
Yeah.
Might be a colleague or a friend that's taking you down that road.
Might be
You're better off cutting them out and throwing them away.
Might be some trauma from your childhood, or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
And
But very interesting. But you're quite right. It's all about you, and it's all about guidance and doing the right thing in the eyes of God. Absolutely. It was also said, whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that anyone who divorces his wife, except on the ground of unchastity, causes her to commit adultery. And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery.
I'm struggling to meet this passage, Dad. And I think it's because I want there to be more exceptions to the rule. Because he says you cannot get divorced except on the grounds of unchastity. Now, I had to look it up, because what unchastity specifically meant, and it's not really known whether it means the people weren't virgins on their wedding, or if it means they were cheating, having adulterous affairs. There's different interpretations of that word, but I'm sat there thinking, surely you'd want to throw in domestic abuse as well. Surely you'd want to throw in if the partner was a habitual criminal of some kind. It's pretty, I mean, all of this stuff has been pretty strict, and I've been okay with it, and yet here it's getting a bit tough for me. The thing I was thinking was, how bad must things have been back then in the cases of divorce for Christ to go, right, that's it, stop, it must have been rampant or something for him to go, I'm drawing a line under this now. Too many of you are making marriage what you want it to be. We've got to get some rules in here. That's how I'm imagining it going in the time. Marriage is an incredible institution. Making a vow to stand by someone your whole life is huge. Marriage is brilliant for men, for women, for children. But I'm just struggling with what we're being asked of here. Is it too strict, perhaps? What do you think?
This is where the modern world clashes with the Bible. You've got to be careful, especially in my situation, because I'm a divorced man that's remarried. So if I read this literally, then I'm not doing very well at all. You have to be careful about trying to read it to make it fit. And you have to be careful about saying things like, oh, it was written in, 1,500 years ago, and it was written in for a world that is different to it is now. But you've got to also consider that this is the gospel, and you've got to consider that Jesus is supposed to have said this. Now, I read the Bible with love, but I also read it, and I'm not saying that this is part of it, but what I'm trying to do, I suppose, is to say how certain parts of it don't really fit, not only into the modern world, but into what I would consider Jesus' life as well. And it's been written by men on witnesses, and there's been very learned scholars, the Bible scholars, that have brought it all together and accepted what goes in the Bible and what doesn't. And there is an element of man, the foolishness of man, creating that document. I'm treading on dangerous territory here, and I do know people are very abstract, very absolute on the Bible, and there are religious groups that will just say the Bible is not for discussion, every single word in it is absolutely literal. I don't go with that. It's my opinion that that's not the case, because the whole thing's been written by man. This hasn't been suddenly appeared in a great big thunderstorm on the Mount of Olives, written by God or Jesus. This is a record of what Jesus said. And like any organised religion, there are gaps that can be wrong. Now, I'm not saying this is the case, but it'd be difficult what you've got to watch is applying that theology to it and saying, oh, this is written by a lot of Pharisees or something like that in the past, or Matthew wrote this down, or somebody told him about it and he wrote it down. And you've got to hang on a minute, what is underneath it all? What is meant by this? Now, am I right? Marriage is a sacrament, okay? And it is a contract that is signed under God, never to be broken by anybody. And in that respect, it is forever, absolutely forever, in the eyes of God, as far as I understand it. So, anybody that, and we say here, whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. So in other words, I've divorced you, here's a proof I've divorced you. So she carries that proof, she's a divorced woman, so that's, I suppose, a benefit for her. So he has no power over her anymore. That's almost like a freedom certificate.
I've read, because that comes from the Old Testament, I read that what that was referring to was a man could divorce his woman officially out of nowhere, and she didn't have a say in it.
Right.
So in a way, this was protecting women from losing their homes and their kids and being thrown out onto the street. So there's an element of that to
so
it.
it's got to be an official one, and it can only be done officially if on the grounds of unchastity.
It's kind of that the men of the household could divorce their women very easily and throw them to the curb. And Christ is in a way protecting women here from that. However, now, times have changed. It's having a different effect to me, which is it feels very constricting. And I'm trying to find a way where I can agree with it, but I keep thinking, what if you're in an abusive relationship? What if the kids are in trouble?
Oh yeah, I agree with that. I'm sort of dealing with this not on pragmatic terms, not on practical terms, but in the eyes of God in regard of the sacrament.
Right.
Right. So divorce. So let's just disconnect the pragmatics of the reasons for a divorce.
Yeah.
Okay. Because there are some people that say, could argue that point, and if it's an abusive relationship, you should get away from your husband, you should disappear, you should be protected from him, but that's not grounds for divorce.
Right.
Do you see what I mean? You're still divorced under the eye of God, it's sacrament.
Yeah.
So it might be a reason and a good reason for him to be thrown in jail, and it might be a good reason for him to be separated from you, but is it a good reason for a religious divorce? I don't know. I think that's where I'm going with this. So it says here, so that, for instance, anyone who divorces his wife except on the grounds of unchastity causes her to commit adultery, which is a very odd situation, that, isn't it? I mean, I think. And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. So you could never marry a divorced woman without committing sin, according to this passage of the Bible. So according to this passage of the Bible, I am committing adultery. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so what do I do in that respect? This is where the modern world meets the ancient world. For instance, I know, say, the Roman Catholic religion. There is a process that if you are a divorced person in the Roman Catholic religion, you can no longer take communion. You're banned from the Eucharist. And I suppose this is where I have a little bit of a disconnect with organised religions, because there is a process in the Roman Catholic, even in the Roman Catholic Church, where you can become properly divorced.
Okay.
And you have to go through a procedure and lots of written bits and paper, and you've got to talk to, I don't know, priests and bishops or whatever, and then they will give you a divorce, which means that then you can start retaking communion. But if it's a sacrament from God and marriage is forever, how can priests and what have you decide that that's not the case, and we can give you through the Roman Catholic Church a divorce, or in the case of our church, we can remarry you even if you've not been sorted out in the church, you've just been divorced. We remarry people under the British rule of law, not under the Roman Catholic rule of their law, So our priests, our archbishops, and our heads of our church, the king, all say it's okay. The Pope will say it's okay as long as you go through all this rigmarole that you can get married again. Now, if you're getting married a divorced woman, according to this text in the Bible, you're committing adultery. So therefore, the Roman Catholic Church and the Church of England are all saying it's okay to commit adultery, in my eyes. That's how the logic seems to occur here. So there's a clash, not only with me and this chapter and the modern world, but also our two major Christian institutions. There's a crash with it as well. So, I don't know. I really don't know.
I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, where I wanted it to be a rule book, but the more I read it, the more vague it becomes, and so it's still on you. If I were to read this passage, as you would say, with love, and try and connect to it, and see what it's, look at it in a broader sense, I think what it's saying is, stand by your vows when things get difficult.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, if your partner's going to get ill,
Yeah.
you're going to hate each other at times.
Yeah.
You're going to have to, have a job you don't like to support your family. Stand by during the difficult times. And like I said, the way it reads, it makes me think that things were very lax back in the day. Because if things were really strict like they were, say, in the Victorian era, he wouldn't need to say that. So I'm wondering, what must it have been like where he had to come along and say, listen, you guys aren't taking your vows seriously. But I think it's like all of this, it's an ideal, and ideals can't always be reached. You aim at them. But for me, I just want a few more asterisks in there. I just want a few more...
But they're not. You see, that's the problem. They're not there.
No.
And the problem is that what you want it to read
Yeah.
isn't what it says.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying about, you can read the Bible with love, and you might think, this is bad, this is wrong. I want it to say something better.
Yeah.
But it's not saying something better. It's saying what it's saying. It's in contradiction with our two main organised churches in Europe, particularly. As we know that marriage is a sacrament, it should be for life, forever. I think the only time it was acceptable to marry a married woman is when the husband had died.
Yeah.
Not when they were divorced.
Yeah.
So divorce is a big no-no. Big no-no. And in the Times, I don't think it was light-hearted in the Times. I think it was more a case of it was dishonour. And if you were divorced, probably dishonoured.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about the Jewish take on it in ancient times when this was written, but I would imagine a divorced woman wasn't particularly well thought of.
Yeah.
Now, what the bloke must have been like to divorce her, I don't know, but obviously it was a man's world then. But what it must have been like for the lady, I don't know. But this is a clash. It's a direct wallop, bang, clatter crash. And anybody that tries to move this around, in my mind anyway, is going to have a heck of a difficulty making this fit.
Yeah, it's one of those points that grinds. I will say, though, that it does fit in a way with everything else we're reading, where, again, it puts morality on you. It's not saying, oh, throw your wife to the wind, or, it's her fault. It's saying, no, you made a vow here, you've got to stand your ground. And in that way, it is consistent with everything else that's being said.
Say I take that and I read that, and I'm a divorced man that's married a divorced woman. So therefore, I'm committing adultery. Okay? Where does that leave me in the eyes of God? And can I put it right? I'm certainly not going to divorce my wife. I'm certainly not going to do that and leave her. But having said that, if it's a sacrament that lasts forever, how can you argue with that simple point? How do you bring that to thousands and thousands of people in our religion that are divorced and remarried? How, and this is what Jesus is supposed to have said. So there's lots of problematic questions around this, and I'd be very dubious of anybody that made stuff up to make it fit.
Yeah. Well, it's a tough subject, and there's a reason it's been debated for so long. There's no easy answers.
Be interesting if we had a guest on that one. I'd like to, particularly an ordained guest. I would love to hear their opinion on that particular chapter. Perhaps we should put that to one side and bring it up at a later
Yeah.
episode, because we've not come to a conclusion, I don't think.
No.
It's a difficult one. It's interesting. And I'd be interested to hear what, if you like, the corporate view from the official church on that was. Some of it was good. Some of it was just like a brick wall. I think anger, yeah, that was good, about reconciliation, forgiveness, ditching your anger, humility. That was all really core to our faith and our beliefs, and supported all of that entirely. Adultery, yeah, it's all about how you see women, respect you have for women. It's not about, as we discussed, it's not about saying that's a beautiful woman and really liking what you see. It's about looking at a woman with lust and having committed that adultery by that actual act of looking at a woman in lust. And lust is a very, very definitive word. And I didn't have any problem with any of that. The divorce, wow, that was a brick wall for me. And it's basically going against not only a lot of modern life, but it's also going against the accepted procedures within the Church of England and also the Roman Catholic Church as well. So I have a difficulty with that, and I'd love to come back to that with a perspective from one, or if not two, clergy on that, and see what their perception of that means, and how they would explain that, or how they would see that chapter in the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw them all as a variation on self-restraint, because they're all playing on things that we naturally want to do. One is we're all naturally very angry and we want to get back at people and not let go of that anger, and also very natural to be lustful, not good but natural. And also there are a lot of what would you call them, basic instinctual reasons why you might want to get divorced. Things can get very, very, very hard. You might be playing on lust, there might be another woman. So there are all these things that in our sort of more primitive stage of, because we are creatures as well as humans, there's a lot of things there that we might want to do and we might be tempted by, and to have a reminder of, no, stay on the straight and narrow, which is a continuation of everything else we've been reading, is important. Now maybe it goes a bit too strict at times, and that the problem with that is it turns people off to the whole message. So it's tricky, because you kind of feel like it's all got to add up and make sense perfectly and agree with you for it all to work. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But I see them as, although some are more severe than others, it's all about self-restraint, and civilizations are really built on that. If you can't trust in other people to restrain themselves and put those instincts at bay, things get pretty rough pretty quick. So that's what I got overall from the three pieces that we've read, is one, it's self-restraint, and two, it's on you. It's not, you've got to hold yourself to a higher standard in certain situations.